To Eddie with a Y. Thank you, brother, for all your work. Keep leading. Know your price. You're doing it.
I appreciate it, boss.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on just really quickly, like this overall experience and opportunity for us to all kind of sync and have exposure to, these types of projects?
Well, I think that I'm encouraged by all the folks really out there trying to organize their communities, trying to build up their communities. Because I think on the surface, people will say, oh, they're trying to get commercial property only for monetary wealth or financial wealth.
Right.
But this is about community wealth overall. This is about ownership. This is about self-determination. So I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing here.
And back to the book. So the Know Your Price came from 2 Trains.
Yeah. 2 Trains Running, my favorite play in the whole wide world.
Yeah.
And in that play by August Wilson, by the way.
Yeah.
My favorite playwright. There's a main character named Memphis who's about to have his property seized through eminent domain by the city of Pittsburgh, and they offer him $15,000 for his property, and he says, I'm not selling my property for $15,000. I know my price. I got my price. I'm paraphrasing, but it's a refrain throughout the play, essentially saying, I got my price. I know my price. Yeah. And but there's another character, Hambone, who makes a deal with a proprietor to in exchange for painting a fence to get a ham. He paints the fence. He never gets his ham. So throughout the play, he says, give me my ham, give me my ham. Now, we don't know if he had mental illness, this guy Hambone, but he died going mad without getting his ham.
And what do you take from that?
So the happy part is that the main character Memphis got $35,000 from.
What were they trying to offer him at first?
$15,000. So
okay.
$35,000. And the moral of that story is you got to know you have worth. What I try to do with my research is give people the price to stand on. Now, the other character, Hambone, the moral of that story is, for me, that this work that we're doing is maddening if you do it alone. If you are out there doing the good work, doing what you're supposed to do, but you're doing it alone, you can go mad and die demanding your work. So I take that part as saying we got to work together in order to get the things we need.
Let's go in here.
Motivation, vision, organization,
which is unfortunate because every now
Piece of platform research with our friend Jonathan Rockwell, where we looked at the devaluation of commercial real estate in majority Black neighborhoods, and where we looked at what the survey of consumer finances has to say about ownership of commercial real estate in the United States. And what we found in that survey is that while commercial real estate is a relatively obscure asset for any household to own, right? The vast majority of households do not own any commercial real estate. We found that there is a stark racial disparity in the ownership of this asset, just like there is across many types of assets. And and our argument is that this is related to the racial wealth gap, and that we can't close the racial wealth gap by just addressing any one asset, whether it's retirement accounts or home ownership. We have to think across assets if we really want to close that gap. Okay, so number 2, and I know we have many friends from the community development space, so maybe this reason resonates with you, that growing Black ownership of commercial real estate can help combat retail redlining. So number 3, commercial real estate is an input to home values. And so once again, like the need to think across asset classes and to think about the real experience of how people live their lives, that your quality of life and the quality of your neighborhood is not just about the people and the other houses in your neighborhood, it's also about the amenities that your neighborhood has. So for starters, we know that commercial real estate matters to home buyers when they're looking at neighborhoods. You may stereotypically hear people say, well, I picked X neighborhood to live in, like, because I had to get access to a good school, or because, like, I was worried about crime or whatever. But actually, what people tell their realtor in the annual survey that's done by the National Association of Realtors is that retail amenities matter more than school quality or job access to a larger share of home buyers in choosing their location. So we know that this is something that really, really matters to people when they're choosing where to live. There is a big body of research out there showing that what in the media and in scholarship is called walkability is positively related to home values. What is just one layer underneath that is that the measure that scholars are using to do these studies about the value of walkability, it's not a measure of whether there are sidewalks, how many days in your community it's 75 degrees, how steep the slopes are in your community. It's not a measure of any of those things. The vast majority of the Walk Score Index is composed of a measure of retail density and diversity in an exponential distance decay function. It measures how much retail is near a given point. That is the main thing that it's measuring. So even though it's called Walk Score, what it is a retail amenity diversity index. And so when you hear these headlines that one Walk Score point can increase the price of a home by an average of $3,000, what that's really about is it's about the same thing that home buyers are telling their realtors. People want access to retail in their neighborhoods. This is something that matters. So that said, it is more complicated than just suggesting there's this linear relationship between home values and access to retail, right? Because what kind of retail matters. And what we found in this same project where we looked at retail, just overall retail counts in neighborhoods, is that because conventional retailers redline majority black neighborhoods and avoid them, that means that what we called in this project predatory retail is overrepresented in majority black neighborhoods. Basically, because flower shops and dry cleaners and grocery stores are less likely to locate in black neighborhoods, the prevalence of, for example, pawn shops is the same across all kinds of neighborhoods, but the share of retailers that are things like bars, pawn shops, payday lending, etc., the share ends up being higher in black neighborhoods because of the missing conventional retail that is not there. And so the answer to making CRE the healthy input to home values that it should be in majority black neighborhoods is not just more retail of any kind. It has to be more of the right kind of retail. And that's why that's why we believe that local control is such and local involvement in rehabilitating the retail mix is such an important part of the solution to this problem. Number 4, why should cities care about this? Why should local governments care about this? Because commercial real estate is a critical part of the tax base of places. This is in the headlines so much right now because of what's going on with office valuations. But in our devaluation study, we looked just at retail commercial real estate, and we found that while retail is less than 10% of what makes up, right, neighborhoods are mostly houses with just a little bit of retail, which is what you see in the bar on the left, that retail is less than 10% of the share of inventory nationwide, and that's also true at the place level. It's almost half of the estimated wealth loss in majority black neighborhoods due to just a 7% devaluation effect. Because commercial real estate is so rare, it is extremely valuable. And so any little thing that's going wrong with your commercial real estate has an outsized impact on the community, but also on the tax base that's available to jurisdictions in order to provide service. And so Andre wrote a piece last year, new year, calendar started over. Andre wrote a piece in 2023 that talked about the paradox that majority black communities are trapped in, where because of devaluation, the tax base is systematically slightly less valuable, so it is underappraised, and thus, in order to raise enough revenue to provide the same level of services that all neighborhoods want, it is over-assessed in order to raise the revenue to provide the services. That is a systematic tax on black neighborhoods that also feeds the racial wealth gap, right? It's another way in which this is structural. And until we resolve that and strengthen the tax base in majority black communities, that is an ongoing toll that will continue to be charged so that black communities can have the schools, the roads, the water, the services that they need, just like every neighborhood, in order to thrive.
Hey Tracy, quick question on that. Is that the tax base, is that sales tax, or is that just?
This is just property tax.
Just property tax, okay.
But the sales tax implications are super obvious. So I focused on property tax here because I'm focusing on the local governments as a core audience, and across the U.S. sales taxes tend to go to the state, but that's not always true, and sometimes they return to local governments through various formulas. Okay, fifth reason. We have some friends from Detroit here. Jermaine, have you seen this one before?
Yes.
Yeah, so we know that neighborhood revitalization takes a thicker capital stack. That once you get outside of downtown, that there's less equity available. And so it's gotta come from somewhere else. And while in this diagram, what we're showing is the way that the Strategic Neighborhood Fund has become that source of additional equity in order to unlock neighborhood revitalization in Detroit. We believe that the community can become an additional source of equity in order to revitalize commercial real estate if we can create new shared ownership models that are SEC compliant and allow that equity in order to enter these deals.
That's fine, dance.
Right? Yes, we're not going to commit any federal crimes. Okay, the sixth reason. The sixth reason to do this is because there is real demand out there for tangible investment products. Yes, it is true. The standard economic development argument that you're going to hear is that investors and entrepreneurs who could be doing retail businesses or retail property, that they'd be better off just getting a job at a company in a tradable sector, that they'd be better off if they have savings just investing it in a retirement account, or that they'd be better off buying treasury bonds. That is true, but that is a false choice, because not everyone has the same interest, trust, and access to those kinds of job opportunities and those kinds of products. People want to be able to invest in the neighborhoods that they know and love, and in the real estate that they can reach out and touch. And it's kind of patronizing to say, oh, people want to be able to invest in this way, but we're not gonna let them do it because the SEC has decided that it's too risky. So, I think there has to be we have to create a way out of that addresses the real issue of the ethics of exposing people to risk, while at the same time addressing the ethics of communities' demand to be empowered. It's a real thing that we need to listen to. And the Community Investment Trust in Portland, I think, is living proof of this. That extremely low-income investors who are investing in $10 increments on a monthly basis, they're not going to be buying stocks and bonds. And the CIT has proved over a 6-year time period to be a way to engage these people as investors, to help them save for the first time, to help them invest for the first time in a product they can reach out and touch in order to get to know the idea and to see that it works, and then potentially transition to some of these other more conventional investment products, such as a retirement account. And my 7th and final reason for why the time is now to buy back the block is that real estate needs to be a part of the sustainability model for nonprofits. This is my reason, this is why I came to this work. As a board member of a community development corporation, I have never seen a path to sustainability for my first baby CDC that I cared about, depending on grants from government and philanthropy. The grants come, the grants go, but the community and its needs and the mission are always there. And the real estate assets in that community should be supporting and working towards that mission. And I believe that real estate is for everybody. It should not just be a mechanism for in the community where on the CDC where I was on the board, there was like one guy that owned half the town, who was doing his business his way, without really talking to anybody else, when really those assets are sustained by the market of the community and should, I believe, be put to work for the community. And localizing ownership of commercial real estate through community-based organizations is a real way that we can both democratize real estate and ensure sustainability for the mission of these organizations in a new way. And so that's why I'm so excited to be working with community-based organizations in this project who want to explore this thesis and to think about real estate and getting rich in a different way. So those are my 7 reasons. And with that, I'm gonna hand it off to Lanier, and we're gonna work our way around. We wanna hear your reasons. And please also share your name, your city, and your organization as we go around.
Great.
Lanier?
And before I go, I want to give Andre a couple minutes to either add, embellish any of your latest research you want to add.
No, first, thank you all for coming, and I want to thank Tracy and Lanier for really spearheading this work, and we give them a round of applause. A few years ago, they reached out and said, hey, I want to operationalize a lot of your work because I live in the research esoteric world often, and I need some experts in the field to really bring this back home. But I only want to add one thing. For me, a lot of this work really, it gets boiled down to power. People use their assets, their wealth, in order to influence the factors or decisions that will improve the quality of their lives. And for me, Buy Back the Block just represents a organizing vehicle for people to claim assets to ultimately improve the quality of their life. I want to see people, yes, own businesses, make wealth, own property, but ultimately I want them to have better lives, live longer, be able to have good schools. And none of this will happen unless you have control of the assets and then convert those assets into power. So that's the only thing I'll add, but again, I just want to thank Lanier and Tracy for bringing this together, and I don't want to forget Anthony, who you may, you don't know you've heard from. You need to give him a round of applause. And Hannah, my RA, but yes, that's the only thing I want to add, and if there is one thing I just want us to maintain is that spirit of empowering people in place, because that's what's needed ultimately.
Let me add, so I'm Lanier Richardson, and I'm happy to be in the room in person with people I've been on Zoom calls with for the last year and see them in person. There's 2 or 3 things that are top of mind. I remember taking a class in college, Russian history. First year, I'm like, what the heck is this? But there's only one thing I remember from that class, a word called zeitgeist. It was like made you live in like the spirit of the time. Like made your work and your mission align with the moment. We all know 2020, I used to always describe it as the year of pandemic, of protest, and of political pandemonium, right? It's my PPP. But what I remember specifically was a guy standing out in front of his business saying, "Don't wreck my business, it's black owned." There was civil unrest after George Floyd was murdered. B, I remember this big clarion call for wealth gap closing initiatives, and we had been working in our business at Trend on commercial corridor development. And I remember thinking, well, the wealth is created by owning assets that generate revenue and appreciate over time, and hopefully will have tax advantages. And we bought our first shopping center. The coolest thing about this work is it's, aligning with the moment is I never have thought of myself as an academic. And even in 10 years now at Rutgers, I've called myself, I've created a term, pracademic, where I just want to do stuff. Right? And with Andre, when I read his book during the pandemic, phenomenal book, and like 2 weeks later, I had this conversation with Tracy about, you should be doing this, and really encouraged me and opened the door to be a Brookings Fellow. And my co-founder, Bob Weisborg, who for years had been doing, research and promulgating papers around inclusive economic development and growth, and even this theory of how retail services and amenities impact neighborhoods. It's like, man, finally, zeitgeist. Right? I can pull all of this research plus practical, plus what I read, plus what I love. And so for the last 3 years, it's changing a little bit, but I was able to say, I want to work on Black, economic development initiatives to strengthen Black neighborhoods, to close the racial wealth gap. And I say it's changing a little bit because I submitted a proposal about 2 weeks ago, and my wife, I said, proofread this really quick. And she said, boy, you took a lot of blacks out of the paragraph. It sounded odd, but now for 3 years I've been able to say majority black neighborhoods, Black economic development. And the spirit of the times, we're back to saying communities of color and BIPOC entrepreneurs and urban and minority. But if we really are gonna address the issues here and to do it without apology, creating wealth requires ownership of assets, houses, stocks, business, commercial real estate. So over the next day and a half, I think hopefully we'll have an opportunity to see some people who are doing really inspiring work here in the city, in the neighborhoods. We're gonna have a couple tours today, our tour of the West Side tomorrow, the project that we are now working on acquiring down in Roseland. You'll get a sneak peek. And I really hope that you'll see more of the thought leaders. So that's the reason why this work has meaning for me, because you can touch it. It's getting resources to people in places that other people overlook or undervalue. It's being able to be intentional about Black economic development initiatives, and it's doing something. So,
what up, though?
What up, though?
Turn up the energy. I want to thank the Brookings team. Is this good?
Yeah.
I want to thank the Brookings team. Obviously, this has been an amazing opportunity and experience. I'm going to do this presentation on one condition. y'all stop coming for my Lions. They are recovering, they are resting for the 2024 Super Bowl. But anyway, again, thank you all so much for the opportunity to present Fostering Economic Empowerment and Prosperity Through Ownership. My name, again, is Michael Randall. I'm the Executive Director of the Grandmont Rosedale Development Corporation. This is our team, Marcia Broom, Tom Gadaris, as well as Eddie Carrington. And before I go any further, I definitely want to thank our team here, Eddie, Tom, and Marcia, from GRDC staff. It means a lot to me for you all. You guys are volunteering your time. I'm working right now. So it's really community members like you all that make opportunities like this possible.
We have identified some properties along the 71st Street corridor that we consider targeted properties that the community investment vehicle will be looking to pursue. We have also received some pre-development funding for that project through the city's Community Wealth Building Initiative. And we are hoping to have our first property acquired no later than May of 2024. And we hope to have that project revitalized and have a fully functioning and operating model by first quarter of 2025. So that has been a long process. It's been very interesting, but this is complicated work. So we are still learning the process. We're still trying to understand exactly how the framework will be structured. We're about 90% there, but just some sticking points that we're working through now. But we wanted to make sure that we brought the community along for this journey. So what we did was we sent out a community survey, a little survey on the back that we are on our handout, where we asked residents to weigh in and share with us their income levels, how long they've lived in the community, if this is something that they would be interested in, and if so, what percentage of their income do they have available, expendable income that they have available to invest, the period of time they would be interested in leaving their money in an investment vehicle of this nature, and when they would be interested in possibly cashing out. And we received about 250 responses. We took those responses and synthesized them into what we are considering our model and our framework now. So again, we're tweaking it just a little bit, and we hope to be able to roll it out to the community early Q2 of 2024.
The gathering spot in DC and Atlanta, or HQ and all these other places. And these are largely renters who are giving $3,000 a year to just get a social venue. I think there's appetite to give and invest in something because I'm just trying to make that, because people are willing, if they can see, oh, I'm getting something. And so it is a mixture of financial return or maybe some amenity that they can feel and touch. But
Hello, everybody. My name is Kathy. I work for Carlos Nelson here at GAGDC. Welcome to Chicago. Welcome to Auburn Gresham. And welcome to the Auburn Gresham Healthy Lifestyle Hub.
Hey, hey.
I hear you from all over the place. Baltimore, Detroit, Cleveland. All right. Wow, how's your experience been so far on your tour?
Great.
Yeah.
It's warm. Yes, it is warm. It's like the summer.
But this is the first time I've seen a Devin Hester.
And we have a story with that. So I'm going to lead you all to our Chicago Bears community room where you'll meet our CEO, Carlos Nelson, and we'll tell you more about the Auburn Gresham Healthy Lifestyle Hub.
Oh, wow.
That is too funny.
Teresa seen me do this, but I love saying a great man. Normally I have PhD or oftentimes PhDs, engineers, folks like you guys in the room, and I like to be up here and I'll say, you know, a great man once said, we are stronger together than we are stronger together than we are apart. And I look at the folks and we have, you know, just these visionaries, and I say, who said that? And I get the report. Confucius, you know, Gandhi. And I'm like, no, that guy right there. Walter Payton. I'm reading it right along. So, welcome to the Auburn Gresham Healthy Lifestyle Hub. We like to look at this as the epicenter of health and prosperity on Chicago's South Side. It's also nicknamed, I wish I could claim this, but a former commissioner, still kicking myself that I never called this the miracle on 79th Street. That I will give that to former Commissioner Maurice Scott. I think he's still in Chicago, right? Not here. I think he's still here. Who cares right now? No, anyway, Maurice, if you're listening to that. No, so at any rate, so we're actually, I just wanted to kind of convene here momentarily, then we'll go up to the 4th floor. But it was important to show that the Chicago Bears was a very important corporate partner. When you think Chicago Bears, you certainly do not think investing in communities like ours. The Bears heard all
Well, actually,
We're not going to take a lot of time, but we did want to have Lanier talk briefly about this project, and because you know a lot about it. But then we're going to organize ourselves to take a quick picture.
Yeah, let's go with Soul Saver.
Middle of the driveway, is that right?
Ultimately, end up wanting to get it. Weird stuff like class action for the arena, Baltimore arena.
You okay?
This is Cole. I want to give us a quick remark. This is Cole.
All right. Quick remark.
So, we have a contract to buy this shopping center, and we hope it will be our first project in Chicago that has more than 50 community investors, as we've done in Baltimore. The cool thing about this project is I want to let the present ownership team sort of tell you about it. For us, it's significant because this was an owner, black-owned development company that's done a number of remarkable projects in Chicago. And for us to buy it, a black-led company buying a shopping center from a black developer is revolutionary in itself. But then also given all the vision that they initially added now 15 years ago to facilitate the community to own 20 or 30 or 40% of the shopping center is something that's really special. So Ryan, where's Ryan? Right here. Oh, great. Ryan, please tell a little bit about the project. This is Cleveland, Detroit, Baltimore.
That's right. Do not fight.
Because they got an audience.
Yeah. Don't fight.
I gotta get this on camera.
Do not fight. Yeah.
Into the Roseland community. Right now we are in the center of Roseland. As you see, we've got the medical office building and the retail center here. It's a 27,000 square foot facility. We've got materials, by the way, which
We've got 10 folders with materials, so we can pass those along, and someone will have to share. But yeah.
And so we're right across the street from Roseland Hospital, which you can see right there. It's a 134 bed hospital.
I want to make sure we have one.
In the area, this community within about 5 miles, you've got about 470,000 people, 400 people work for the hospital. So it was very strategic for us to build, a medical office building in this location. We're about, equidistant from 2 major highways, I-57 and I-94. This center is 100% leased right now.
Nice.
7 of the 8 tenants here were here when we completed construction back in 2008, which I think speaks to our management. We are, the hospital is also one of the busiest emergency rooms in the city, which I think is notable.
I understand why now.
It's Chicago. It's Chicago.
If this is so revenue positive, why exit?
Yes, I was just going to ask
What's
you.
next?
I think DL3's mission is to create projects that revitalize communities. I think we're mission accomplished on this. We're a developer. So what we want to do is develop and exit and do it again, and exit and do it again. So we've just completed sort of a great project, and it's stabilized and it's sustainable. So now's a good time.
Let's say a minute about the medical district that you all created here.
Yeah,
I was like, dude, we want to go inside so it's everyone's not in the hole.
Oh, sorry, we weren't sure if there were like patients inside or like.
I don't want to be crazy.
She's looking like a.
I tried to. I tried to avoid it, but
Coming out on us.
And we received a designation of the 7B for property tax incentive for commercial development, that revitalized communities, and we were the first renewal of a 7B a couple of years ago.
Who was the CDE intermediary?
I don't know that.
Ryan's right up there.
Sure, my colleague may know, and we'll let you know. And then, pardon us. We are, so someone asked a question about the medical district. The medical district was, I believe it was created in 2013?
Yeah. And
13?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So, if people that are closer to Illinois, Chicago, there is Illinois Medical District right by UIC in the West Loop. This medical district was created about 2013. It was funded by the state of Illinois in 2022 for $25 million. So there was an earlier question, why exit, right? DL3 is not exiting from Roseland. We're exiting from this asset, but we're not necessarily exiting from Roseland per se. Another thing that $25 million, and it's in the folders, is that the city of Chicago adopted a Roseland Medical District Revitalization Plan, right? We do plan to look at some of those opportunities such as vacant land that's still available, and to be able to see if there's opportunities for us to invest and develop those that land as well. So some of the other things to keep in mind is 2020 we had the pandemic. A lot of disproportionate lives obviously lost in neighborhoods like Roseland and other parts of Chicago where, you know, whether it's testing, whether it's public health pronouncements all not going through. So there's definitely a need for it. Population loss, obviously, that's not only confined to Roseland, but that's also throughout parts of Chicago. And so we are also invested and involved in affordable housing. We're doing 2 affordable housing projects that are under construction right now, one in Woodlawn, one in Englewood. And so the other thing that we'd like to see if there's opportunities to bring in affordable housing or housing that's more, you know, cost accommodative to the population. And then, you know, jobs is the other piece, right? Besides, you know, this shopping center recently, what we did was we acquired 2 closed down Target boxes that were about 100,000 square feet. And the first one we did was in Marshfield, so it's about 1.5 miles from here. And that created about 500 jobs that were call center, customer service oriented. So where they have committed to hiring within 5 miles of that center, right? So it's accessible to the people that are high school graduates or people that have gone to the city colleges or community colleges in the neighborhood.
A couple of other quick points about Roseland. We are in the Roseland Medical District, as we said earlier. The city of Chicago completed a master plan for this strip in 2023, so that's really exciting. Also in 2023, the Red Line Extension project, which extends one of the major CTA lines right here to like 2 blocks away at 111th and Wentworth. So this area is going to see amazing growth, so it's a great investment. And then one other note about the area, this medical district abuts the Pullman National Park, which is just to the east, which was dedicated by President Obama, I believe, in 2015. So that's a huge asset for the city, for the area, and there's a lot of excitement. So I think that kind of wraps up the any questions, and then we can take people up in waves.
Question.
Yeah.
So y'all manage the property?
Yes, we do manage the property in partnership with a property management,
And so the strip mall is from here to this building, or is it? I see.
Stops here.
No,
Okay,
it stops here.
gotcha.
That's what you see. All right.
So the deal will include the office.
Yes.
So it's actually mixed use because it's office and retail.
Yep.
Correct.
So linear, I love this for you.
And there will be so is this the first project where the residents? Can you explain that a little
Right. So when we started our model, it's really funny. So we bought the first shopping center. We did this broad outreach for just folks we know. It's like, hey man, you want to invest 50,000? You want to invest 20,000? You want to invest 50,000? We bought our first shopping center. The second one, the owner was when we bought it, we hired a black leasing agent and property manager. They now have equity in the second little shopping center we bought here. Third shopping center, we found the business owner. So it's the anchor tenant plus the leasing agent and property manager. It wasn't until we got to Baltimore where we were invited, but when we met with the city's economic development people, they were like, oh, why is some Chicago firm buying a shopping center and economic development project? That was the question. And I was like, well, we've been thinking about, could we democratize ownership? And he started introducing us to all of the, I'm trying to think of the proper word, my grandmother would call them hootie hoos, all of the power brokers in Baltimore. You should meet this guy, you should meet this guy. Right, and so we had met this lady who had launched this crowdfunding platform, and I said, well, let's just try this. Right, and so we went out and said, when's the last time someone knocked on your door and said you want to own something in your community? And we got a positive news article, and as you've heard before, within a couple months we had 130 local people that invested $300,000. Nobody thought, and this is the toughest part of West Baltimore. So it's the same model that we've been wanting to try here, to find the right project where there's enough of a story that the operating pro forma works, right? I always say the narrative and the numbers. So based on the agreement that we've negotiated to acquire the shopping center, we believe over time there'll be enough return for it to be positive. Given all of the other announcements about new development, the hospital, the red line, the park, all of those other things are positive. And so, and this is it's sort of two parts of the community. There's a substantially low income part of Roseland, and there's a moderately affluent, moderately income. Is that fair to describe it? So our expectation is that we're going to do the same thing. Meetings in church basements, community rooms, apartment building common area, and get local people to say, you want to invest $500 or $1,000 here and have a stake in their neighborhood. Right? It's something that we believe over time this property will appreciate in value. And so I was telling Bob, who I was sitting next to as we were driving down, I'm like, well, this is the first time trying Chicago. I'm like, cautiously optimistic, right? What, can I get 20 people, 50 people? I don't know how it will be received in Chicago, but I know it's a positive story of carrying on the legacy. This, again, Ryan and the team are being somewhat modest. I mean, Leon has done phenomenal work in neighborhoods, pioneered community-oriented development, anchor development, strategies of doing the first grocery store in neighborhoods and that type of work. And so the work that they've created here and creating this medical district and working with the hospital of keeping this as a first-class building is a story I think we'll be able to get other people excited about.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I understand that Fresenius and Chicago Family Health, which is you may know Fresenius, they do dialysis care, and Chicago Family Health is a federally qualified health center, based here in the Southside neighborhood. But this center offers a nice mix of medical services that complement, the hospital, especially with the urgent care. We, invested, a little over $5 million. The tenants, like if now we can't see Fresenius, but they invested millions of dollars. Chicago Family did too, in the facility. So signs of, real investment and really interesting compliments.
30% of the tenants in our existing shops are healthcare. So this thought of having healthcare and services, I remember when we first started this, where I was like, we're not talking about Cheesecake Factory and West Elm and Best Buy. This is carry out pizza where you go to get a haircut. We have pediatric daycare and some dental and things of that sort. So this fit with our strategy of it's health. It's a community on the cusp of change. We believe there's some positive things that are about to happen. We have a little adjacent site that we're hoping to may do some development on here as part of the transaction. So, time will tell. So we're optimistic.
So with FQHCs being federally regulated, how seamless was it to get them in here as a tenant? And was it like a new process with HRSA or whatnot? Because it seems like, if I'm not mistaken, that's more of an acre, if you will, because it's federally funded. So it's kind of.
I'm going to look over at our broker, Triu, who was talking earlier, but I do believe there's a medically underserved area definition that you need to fit.
And Chicago Family Health Center, that's the FQHC. So they did the needs analysis back in 2007, 2008 timeframe. So they were qualified since, until that time. As far as what our process, we had to deliver essentially a white box to them. So they did the federally certified build out and all of that. That was their part of their scope of work. Yeah.
And each tenant built out their own box.
Correct.
Including each tenant did.
Good stuff. So this was meant to be just a taste. I was hoping today that we were going to say, and today you can invest. We're probably 3 weeks away. 3 weeks away from. In fact, I'm shooting a video, the community investment vehicle video on Thursday morning, and we really are working certainly during the month of February to launch the campaign, and ideally we're going to acquire the center in April or May sort of time frame.
Last question.
Yeah.
What percentage do you hope to, realistically, would you say was in excess if it was community owned versus your ownership?
20%.
Okay.
So our model is set up that if as little as 5% invest, we'll invest the other 95% equity. Ideally, it's 20. It could be as much as 41%. So if we got right in that 20%, I think which in this project, I think we're projecting it takes about $2 million of equity. $2.2 million of equity. So, you know, if we could raise, you know, even $200,000, $400,000, we would be excited.
Yeah, that's good. It's doable.
And at 20 is so funny because I'm so managing expectations. I'm like, if we just raise $100,000, I'll be elated, right? You know, so that because I just don't know what the response will be. So we're gonna do it. So watch.
It depends on how sexy the video is.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's good stuff. Good stuff.
And then I just want to amend my statements that our property manager just reminded me that Cermak subleases space to a dentist. So we actually, in addition, offer dentistry as well. So it's a real suite.
Big plus.
Yeah.
Say one more minute about other tenants here and property management sort of.
Well, I'm mainly the director of operations for DL3 Realty. I've been with them for 20 plus years, and so I've been with them since this building was built. Our, again, original tenants, Chicago Family Health, Fresenius, Subway, on and on, that we have the original tenants here, and it's all about relationships, and I think that's what matters when you have a tenant that you need to respond to in a timely manner to get things done in a timely manner to make sure they have the confidence in you to make sure that the building is running smoothly.
Is it all triple net or is it a mix?
I'm sorry?
All triple net?
It's a mix.
Mix.
Okay. It's a mix, yeah.
So like some of the smaller tenants are gross tenants, like, you know, Subway tenants, but the Fresenius and the Family Medical Center, they're triple net.
Also, another feature here at this building, the Rosedale Medical Center was the first medical building to have a green roof as well. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's another very, very unique thing that.
How big of a headache has that been? I mean, from the owner's side, is it no leaks or no?
No, you just maintain it just like anything else.
Gotcha.
Do you get a break from the city on the stormwater bill because of that?
You know what? I have to address that to the staff.
Excuse me?
Do you get a break from the city on your stormwater bill? Because
Not on the water bill. I think the break was part of when we were constructing it.
Yeah.
You know, it was part of when we were first constructing it as part of the new markets tax credits. It was to show that we're building it up to the standards at the time and, you know, being environmental. Yeah. So that was, I think, the plus point in our application.
So as we take a group up, I'm Ryan Green, you got Bill Smith here, Tarayi Patel, and Linda Hatara. We're all from DL3. Feel free to talk to any of us, and maybe
on this floor, especially in the summertime, you can really look out and see a lot of good things happening here. This is a very good picture, so that you can really oversee things. In the daytime also too, you can see the green roof in the daytime as well, which is on the roof up here and above here too. I'm sorry, not here, but over there. Yeah.
I'm impressed. You don't hear about a shopping center with a green roof every day.
That is
That's
impressive.
for me.
That's impressive.
Lanier was like, we're going to move the shopping center. This isn't.
I wasn't here at the time, so I guess
Undersells.
but I don't think.
It's been a while since I've been able to take that.
Great crew. Remind Aisha is gifting us with the village is gifting us with these wonderful pens. So I'm going to pass these around, and if you so choose to take one, please do.
Thank you. It's really nice.
Yesterday, we saw projects that were awarded subsidy over the last 2 or 3 years, and you saw them at a more advanced state of development. This team here, who you will hear from in a few minutes, is the most recent winner of the $10 million Pritzker Traubert prize. We're on the west side of Chicago. West side, the best side. I grew up about 4 blocks. But what I wanted to have happen is the team that we're going to hear from and spend most time with, I want them to just get a little flavor of what each city is doing. So I didn't want it to be the full presentation of yesterday, but if one team member could talk a little bit about the block, just so they understand the sort of context. I see you met her yesterday. Naomi from PTF is here. We may have some of our other PTF colleagues joining us. And so, we'll interweave them into the conversation. And then finally, we're going to end sort of with this facilitated conversation about how we do this, what the obstacles are, what the opportunities are. So that's our agenda this morning. So why don't we work our way back? So we always do BCD, let's do DCB. So the Detroit folks, if you just, and then I'll do all of the introductions, but if you'll just say, 2 minutes, here's our organization, here's, what we're working on, why it's interesting. Oh, sure, yeah, okay, great, thank you. All right, so I'll pass this one around, thank you.
Buy back the block. We all know what buy back the block is. Every community, black community I know of, there is somebody saying buy back the block. It's in our music, it's in our culture, it's in our social movements. But for me, I wrote a chapter in my book, Know Your Price, Value in Black Lives and Property in American Black City. Available wherever my books are sold. But I wrote a book chapter about one entrepreneur in Birmingham who actually bought back the block but could not get the money to develop the block because his properties were essentially appraised at $0, or they were not worth, or priced so low that they would not provide investment capital. I wrote the chapter. My colleague Tracy Lowe, who's a fellow at Brookings, offered up to operationalize that work. And then she employed Lanier Richardson, Professor Richardson, and we wrote up a couple proposals to look at efforts in cities across the country. As you heard, we picked 3, Cleveland, Baltimore, and Detroit. And so we are documenting those efforts in each city, that we're encouraged by them. But more than, as much as I do, probably definitely more, that there are people here in Chicago trying to buy back the block. And that's why we're here, to hear any kind of insight that may lead to policy change. And what I say all the time, I am much more interested, while I'm certainly capturing all the details of what our teams are doing, I'm much more interested in the policies that are needed to make sure, one, that we don't continue the kind of state that we're in today, and to create policies that will actually enable people to own property, to self-determine, to have the assets so they can have a quality of life that they deserve. That's what I'm interested in. Too often, we essentially accept the conditions, the status quo that we're in, and we tell individuals, just do better, and you can get what you deserve. I really do know that we can do everything that we're told to do and still come up short. So part of this work is to dismantle this architecture of inequality that prohibits growth, even among the people who are perfect. Perfect is Jesus, so to speak. But that's what we do at Brookings. But again, it's my honor to be in your your house. So thank you very much.
I work for the Metro.
How you doing, boss?
To have say brief remarks. So Leon Walker, we just came from Rosedale Medical Center, and there was a constant mention of the work of DL3. I wanted to give him an opportunity to tell you a little bit about his firm and a little bit about his approach to development here. So it's inspirational. After Leon, I want Rhonda McFarland. You met her earlier today to talk a little bit about the neighborhood here and actually the work that was involved to be able to get this project and this restaurant and the rest of the retail amenities on this corridor to come to fruition. And then I want you to hear from the restaurant visionaries, the chef who's well regarded, and then the project consultant that really has worked to help a number of businesses, particularly black-owned businesses and restaurants, to really find their way to viability and to get their vision together. So everybody has like 3 minutes, and then we will eat and we will drink, and we'll eat and drink as we go forward. So Leon, you're first. Leon Walker.
Thank you, Lanier. Good evening. How are we doing?
Good.
Is everybody tired out after a long day of travel? No? Okay, all right. We got some encouragement here. Again, Leon Walker, managing partner of DL3 Realty. We are a commercial real estate firm focused on impact investing. Before that term became really popular in everyone's vocabulary and language, Rosedale Medical Center, which you toured this afternoon, was one of our first impact investments. That was a heavily environmentally challenged site. It was in a community that had historically been disinvested. It was across from a safety net hospital that was, every other year was on the gurney itself in terms of viability. And we saw an opportunity, a way to come in. This is prior to the ACA, the Obama Healthcare Act, and to bring healthcare services to help decompress the emergency room of the hospital. So that was the initial thesis. And then as we got into it, we began to also see how you could create a medical district around the hospital to build on the strength that it has with employees, because employees are an economic engine and generator. And so we were the first domino to fall in order to create the medical district, which was signed into law by Governor Quinn in 2012. The project won an award in 2008 for being the most outstanding development by LIST CNDA. And it also was mentioned in the Treasury Secretary's remarks from the federal government, because it was a new market tax credit project at a time when new markets, took a little bit of a black eye with the Roosevelt Hotel. Anybody here know about the Roosevelt Hotel? Knows about new markets? Yeah. Roosevelt Hotel on Michigan, Blackstone Hotel, sorry, on Michigan Avenue, and received one of the early awards for new market tax credits through a little bit of a loophole called targeted populations. And as a result of that, they were able to receive a huge subsidy for a hotel on Michigan Avenue. So that very same year, we came out with the Rosedale Medical Center, and everyone's like, this is impact. This is what we want to really see the new market tax credit program go towards. So we have a lot of pride in it. We now have Lanier and his team. Congrats to them on their fund and their work. Really tremendous and inspired individual. He and I both went to the same law school. He's a little older. He's, iron sharpens iron. He's a great leader. And we're happy to be in partnership with him. He and I also work here in Chicago to stimulate, to encourage, to lift up Black and brown developers from the neighborhoods with a program called the Chicago Emerging Minority Developer Initiative, CEMDI for short. We need a short way to say that. So CEMDI.org, and Lanier's organization is our fiscal agent as we work with the Chicago Community Trust, which is our financial backer on that, and we're working diligently to inspire and lift up new talent in the neighborhoods. That's a little bit about the project, about our partnership. DL3 Realty, we're very, very engaged and involved here in Chicago. We put $100 million into the Woodlawn community. Everybody knows about the Auburn Presidential Center, right? Yeah. Well, we built the first grocery store, full-service grocery store there in 40 years. We brought sushi to the hood. And so we did that. We just opened an affordable housing project at 63rd in Maryland, 58 units, took applications. We had 2,300 applications for 58 units in 48 hours. That shows the need for affordable housing is huge. We've done a bunch of other things in that neighborhood, but we're active and engaged. Impact investing is what we do. How many have heard about the Discover Financial Services Project, the call center project? It's another one of our deals, bringing 1,000 jobs to Chatham. So DL3 is very active. We're also doing some advisory work across the country where we come out and we help municipalities and others do this work in a meaningful way. So thank you all for listening. I'll be around for dinner. I'm ready to eat. It's a long day for me too. And I'm excited to have you in Chicago.
Thank you, Dean. And let me just say, so I know usually when they say when 2 or 3 are gathered, so it seems like some people are waiting. I don't think we'll formally say grace yet, but look, we're very thankful for all the blessings, for the convening, for the gathering, for the food that we're about to receive. So please partake, enjoy dinner, and we're thankful to the Lord for all of the provision that He's made for us. Please eat now. Second, Rhonda. Maybe deaconess.
That's really funny.
Okay, perfect.
Good evening. Again, you had your welcome to Chicago, so now I'm welcoming you to Bronzeville, where culture lives. Bronzeville is the Harlem of Chicago. We are so proud to have you here. We're proud to have you in one of our flagship properties and our newly awarded restaurateurs here in the community. I don't know why Lanier told me I had 3 minutes, but I'm gonna do my best. I didn't even pick my notes up, just so I can try to stay on 3 minutes. So I'll give you some quick history about this development. This is part of the Plan for Transformation, which came out under the Mayor Daley administration in 1999. This project 10 years for development, and this is just phase 1. Say again. We could build a world in 10 years.
Sure can.
10 years for development. The project is privately owned. They get I think a 99-year lease from the Public Housing Authority, and the goal of Plan for Transformation was to tear down the projects which were creating full poverty neighborhoods and create mixed use neighborhoods. This particular development is just rental. In our footprint that we serve, we have 4 transformation projects. Some of them have for sale home ownership opportunities in them that are larger. So we're now sitting in 4400 Grove, phase 1, which is 2 buildings. The building we're in now, the north building, and we have a southern building. It is a mixed-use, mixed-income project. There are 86 units in total, mixed income above, on 3 stories above. Similar to what Mr. Walker shared, they were leased immediately when the developer opened the building. We started on the commercial space. There are 16,000 square feet of street level commercial space in these 2 buildings. That was divided across what we thought would be 12 units. So I'll stop here and say that our organization, Quad Community Development Corporation, has been part of this redevelopment for since 1999, 2000, when we started the plan. Under the plan for transformation, each site had what was called a working group. The working group is made of community leaders, stakeholders, residents of that public housing development, the Chicago Housing Authority, the attorneys that are part of the control lawsuit to break down housing, and others. And those groups literally planned everything for these developments, to what type of brick, to unit mix, to carpet, to everything, finishes. And part of that included what type of programming they wanted to see for the commercial corridor spaces. So we call it programming, but what kind of tenants, what kind of services? We're also the lead agency on the quality of life plan that was done for the quiet communities, which are the 4 neighborhoods, 4 of the 77 neighborhoods that we service here. And part of the quality of life plan also spoke to what amenities, what services, and so forth were needed. So when we started the leasing, and the developer contracted QCDC to help them using what we call our tenant engagement consulting practice. So there's a fee for service practice that we have with developers and landowners. We didn't have to do a lot of engagement about what we needed. Our goals were as many locally controlled business owners that we could get, to meet a great deal of the services that neighbors and residents said they needed and wanted in their space, to get a group of business owners who were savvy and experienced enough to, at the bare minimum, be successful for the life of their initial lease. Now, you know that's the absolute bare minimum. And almost as important, that it would be a group of business owners who had the community in mind, who would want to work collectively with their business neighbors, who understand that the pie is infinite and you can make money and do the right thing at the same time. So those were kind of, I mean, it sounds, like pie in the sky. We started the second half of 2019 was our first meeting. Because we worked in this community at that time for nearly 20 years, we already had a list of business owners we knew were looking, that we knew were going to be good candidates. So we started with, quote, a VIP meeting before we went out to the public. And I'm proud to say that most of the businesses that came through that initial meeting actually ended up in the space.
Nice.
So there were 12 spaces. We ended up with 8 businesses, thus some took 2 spaces. Of the 8 businesses, or the spaces, I'm gonna talk in the 12 spaces, we have 7 of them that are open and operating. We have 2 that should be opening any day now, and is as beautiful a space as this one is. I can't wait for you all to see it. So we're at about 75% completion. We have 1 business owner that fell out due to personal reasons, and we have another one that's in some continuing negotiations. Nice. And while, yes, as the leader, that didn't seem like success for me, I had to have a lot of conversation with myself to go, is that success? We wanted all these people open, we wanted this to be wonderful. Well, 75% ain't too bad for a community-based organization with $1 million budget.
Right.
We made that happen. What did we learn? What have we learned? Absolutely lots of things. But of those 8 businesses, 6 or more can walk to this business from their home.
Nice.
That was a huge goal. So when you talk about putting community and development together, when Eric walks, Cecilia bikes to this business, they see every block. There's a trash can down 3 blocks away. We see that, we can call and tell somebody that. Oh, such and such has their window is broken. Let me keep my eye out, call them, what happened at their business. We're creating that community on the business owner level. Hopefully Cecilia, when she speaks, can talk better than I can about how they have worked collectively here, which is what we want to continue to have. I use this example of being in New York a few years ago in Manhattan, going to a Thai restaurant that was listed as like the best. It was about the size of the back piece of that place there, with no restroom. And when we asked to use the restroom, oh, you can go 3 doors down to the other Asian restaurant and use the restroom.
Wow.
That kind of connectivity, or you go to a Hispanic community and if business A runs out of tortillas, they go down the street and get some, because they understand that the collective activity of their business is going to help everyone. As everyone rises, we all rise. So that really was a big goal. Challenges, trust. This work requires a lot of trust. When we're doing tenant engagement, so I'll step back and talk a little bit about our team. I think you heard me say that I'm a former banker. So I start with risk liability and we understand numbers. Our financial planner and small business advisor is also a former banker. One of Lanier's ex-partners is on my team, who is an architect, builder, commercial property manager. And at that time, we had also a 20-year AT&T veteran with customer service training and compliance. Every team doesn't look like this. I'm always saying what we have doesn't mean that we have more than somebody else or less. I talk to Tanya regularly. We met Tanya today. I talk to Carlos regularly, because we all are leaning on each other. But what it did for this work is we can look at your numbers, we can tell you if your numbers work, if your numbers don't work, but you have to trust us to give us your numbers. You have to trust us to have that conversation. A big part of what we found with our small business owners, not just in this project, because we work with 300 a year, is the getting them to trust that it's okay to say what they don't know. It is okay to ask a question. There is a need, especially in the African American community, that I am doing this by myself, and I gotta figure it out by myself. And we lose a lot of time in trying to understand that when we lose one business, it costs us the next 3. So our goal is never to let a business shut. We're proud to say that through the pandemic, I think the national average was 40% of African American businesses. We had less than 20 in our neighborhood. And 2 or 3 of those had nothing to do with the pandemic. They just closed around that time. So we think that having a community-based partner who's doing this kind of matching work does not replace real estate brokers or realtors. We will partner and work with them as much as we can, and when they have enough sense to know that, hey, we are a great partner to work with. But the difference you get is, generally speaking, with that realtor, that broker, they're saying, here's a person, and they're gone. We're saying, here's a person, we're gonna make sure that they are qualified, we're gonna make sure that they understand the value of being in this project, and we're gonna see them through all of their hurdles. That included one project where the business owner had a death and a major health issue and called our office and said, here are the keys, finish my project. From a construction standpoint, that happens. When the first person that opened, Aya, she was the only business open here by herself, female, by herself, and a homeless person who was struggling did some things in front of her building that I won't say before dinner. And she freaked out. So we have to bring her down the ledge, and how do we deal with that? So we are proud of this work. We definitely are available to have conversation of how you do this work. It's different than what Lanier does, but I think that it's complementary to what they're doing. We stay here forever. Now, this is not a ownership opportunity in this particular structure. While we work with other buildings and other opportunities to really encourage ownership by local businesses and local just real estate developers, as in terms of hyper-local, to own their space, this was not an ownership opportunity. It's kind of what I would consider the next best opportunity. The developer did a very good job of using their credits, their new market tax credits, their housing tax credits, their funds from the Public Housing Authority and the city of Chicago to structure the commercial space where it was not a requirement to make the deal work. Okay, so they can be flexible. We also have a development team who is non-minority, but very well and very entrenched in the city, and had a goal of really making this happen. And most importantly, they are a housing developer, and the first thing they said is, we don't do this. We don't even know how to do this. And trusted us to work that way with them versus going out and just finding a broker, and we would have gotten, you know, probably a new dollar store and some other things. So it's really being on the ground, having these relationships, and building trust all the way around the table is what happens. Last I will say is that I think of 8 businesses, all but 2 also benefited from grants through the City of Chicago's Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. And there are plus and minuses to that, because we all know there's no free money. So there are costs to getting these grants, but they all benefited from those, and the one that fell out even had one of these grants as well. And the city initially was not going to allow that program to be available for this project because it had so many other resources in this project. But because of our relationship with the city, the number of contracts we had, and how we can make this go forward, because we started before the pandemic, and in July-ish of 2019, and we did not lose one of those businesses through the pandemic, which we were really, really grateful for, to, you know, to keep moving this forward. Clearly, I'm here to answer any questions and to be a partner as much as we can, and hopefully we'll get to come visit your market soon. Thank you.
Hi, I was like, hey, I have an idea. You know, we're gonna build this wine bar, you know, on Cottage Grove on the south side, you know, during the pandemic. I don't really drink wine. By the way, we don't have any money for this project either, so she's like, sure, I'll do it. It's a good idea. So she came and she came down and made it happen. But
say something about your background too.
Sure. So I own a store here called the Silver Room in Chicago.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It's been open for 26 years. So my story used to be on the north side. This is actually how this place came about. I was on the north side for 18 years, and I moved to Hyde Park, moved my store to Hyde Park. And even me being from the south side and being on the north side for most of my adult life, you kind of take for granted that all the nice things on the north side. You know, I'm going up north is what we say. Because I'm going somewhere nice. And this was about, hey, we can have something nice in our neighborhood. That was really the whole point. We can have the same quality, if not better quality, in our community. We can walk to work, we can hire folks from the community. Folks, the thing I love the most is talking to the customers and say, I lived around here for 10, 15 years, never had a place to go and have a glass of wine, or a first date, or anniversary that they can celebrate here. So that's the point of this place. I mean, yes, we have great food, great wine, but it's really about the people. And so having the structure, be it, working with Rhonda and having our, rent concessions and, the developer and, the Southwest, Invest Southwest, talking about some music. Invest Southwest program that we got a little bit of money to help us out is how you actually build communities, small business at a time. So we've been here for almost 2 years now. Yep. We've served over 70,000 guests so far. We won an award last night, Best Hospitality in Chicago. So it's been great, and even trying to get financing, people go on Google Maps and look at the neighborhood, look at the empty lots in the dollar store, saying, no, we're not gonna give you no money for this, it's not gonna work. It's like, no, this can work. This is a community that has it's a very rich community. As Rhonda says, the Harlem of Chicago, which just needs a little bit of support. So we're happy to be here, and thank you for being here. So.
I mirror everything that Eric said. We're really blessed. I think when we created this space for moments like this, to be able to have, we actually designed the restaurant with one long table, but then realized financially that didn't make any sense. So, I think when we thought about what is this space and what does it do for our community, that was a really important part of our why. And also I think something that unites both Eric and I as business owners. We wanted to create a space that was able to be very reflective of our experience as a Black community of Bronzeville, and that goes through the arts, the culture, the music, the ability to act as an amplification method for Black-owned winemakers, female winemakers. So, we were really intentional about many things going into the space. So the chairs and tables were made here on the south side by an incredible Black designer named Norman Teague. Our light fixtures were made by an incredible female designer, Lucy Silvinsky. Even the art on the walls was made by Krista Franklin, a local friend and artist. We have DJs daily here who play vinyl in our space. So almost every single thing, our general contractor was a Black GC from the south side, and then 85% of our beer wine list and spirit list is actually female or minority owned. So, so for us, I think when our guests walk through the door, one, they don't expect to see this here, but I think secondary, when they sit down, we're able to give that education level of, what should you try or what should you ask for? Learning the story of Uncle Nearest, learning that there are incredible Black, female winemakers in South Africa. So every day it really gives us the opportunity. We've been able to create about 50 jobs. We try to promote from within whenever possible. So last night when we won our Jean Banchette Award, we actually were able to bring our first dishwasher who started with us and is now cooking on the line. Ira, our first server, which is why he's tired. And then Chanel, who is an incredible aspiring restaurateur herself, who has her first menu item on the menu premiering for Restaurant Week. So, I think for us, this space means a lot. It helps us to work with the other businesses in the local area as well, and in that time, we're able to work together on a collective marketing efforts, supported by QCDC. When we do events on a Sunday, we'll usually talk to everybody on the block to say, how can we all activate this block? But I will say, we've seen the block change since we've been here. I remember when we first opened, there was somebody who sold drugs outside every day. And we didn't know what to do. I wasn't calling the police on them because I didn't want to come back on me. And we didn't, so we talked about it. And over time, when we finally opened our doors, Aya opened first, and then I think CBQ was right after that. And then when we opened, we noticed after the first or second week that that drug dealer wasn't there anymore. So that's real-time proof that when you activate space, it makes our neighborhood safer and more incredible places to live. So this is my nighttime job. During the day, I'm really lucky to be able to work with a variety of developers across the country, mostly rooted in Chicago. My career was working to develop Hyatts and ski resorts and other things like that across the country. And so I realized in that work that there's a huge, well, I guess I just observed that there's a huge racial gap in ownership. And what does that accessibility to ownership look like? And it's not just money, it's not just access to resources, but it's also the knowledge and the bandwidth support as well. So during the day, I worked with developers to do developer services, which is everything from hiring, marketing. It really ranges to construction. So we work to help emerging developers go from being an entrepreneur to first-time developers. So I get to work with Michelle and Lanier on a project, Back of the Yards, which has been really incredible. And we've got projects in Inglewood, Back of the Yards, South Loop, South Side, all over. And so just for us, it feels really exciting to be able to make an impact so we can see more spaces like this that are owned by our community, that are reflective of our community, that are hiring our community, but also that are driving tourism-based traffic to our community so that we can create more wealth. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate it.